Let's face it, brawn isn't everything. You can spend your whole life building your body to peak fitness, making gain after gain after gain. But all it takes is one encounter with some Ninja Turtles for you to finally realize that pure muscle just isn't enough to succeed in world domination. Get 'em! Oh, come on, don't cry. There's always another option. In these cases, you need to outwit those Boy Scouts with an evil scheme. You need to come up with a giant ray gun, or create a giant Death Star that travels underneath the Earth, trying to cause all havoc for the world above. You need the brains to stay one step of your nemesis, and there's only one brain who can help you take over the world. No, not him. Well, maybe tomorrow night. You need Krang, the evil brain from Dimension X. Hi, I'm Gary from Raz Rentals, and this is a review of the 1989 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Krang. Krang first appeared in the Season 1 episode, Enter the Shredder. But his figure didn't come out until 1989, which is the second year of the toy line. Krang and the Shredder are both partners in crime. Both think they're the leader of the evil Technodrome, and both don't realize that the other one is only using the other one for their own selfish schemes. Unlike the Shredder, Krang is not a direct port of a character from Mirage Comics. He's more like a new take on a very creative alien race. So, before I get into the toy review, here's a quick breakdown on where Krang comes from. Krang is based on an alien race called the Utroms. The Utroms first appear in issue number 3 of the original Mirage Comics series. Here they pick up a battle-damaged Splinter and take him back to their TCRI building. And Splinter finds them, and at first it looks like the Utroms are the enemy. In this issue, the Turtles go into the TCRI building to try to look for Splinter, and find him like in a giant, Wolverine Weapon X kind of container in some liquid. So they think the Utroms are bad. They get into a fight, and then the Turtles are accidentally transported into outer space where they meet the Triceratons, a Fugitoid, and eventually they come back in issue number 7. And in this issue, they find out that the Utroms, despite looking evil, they're actually good guys. They're a benevolent, peaceful race, and they're only on Earth because they got crash landed here, and they're trying to build a transmat which will transport them back to their homeworld. And they also created the ooze that flew out of the truck in issue 1 of the Ninja Turtle comic books, the very ooze that mutated the Turtles into who they are now. The Utroms have a very fun and cool design. To me, in my opinion, it seemed very creative for these guys to sit in the stomach cavities of these robotic bodies. And that eventually would become, of course, the Krang android suit. Well, the inspiration for it. And then after these, 3 issues of Mirage comic books, the Utroms disappear from Mirage comic books until volume 4, whenever the Utroms come back to Earth and kind of make Earth kind of like a Star Trek kind of place. Peter Laird is very fond of science fiction stories. Krang is similar to the Utroms, but he's also very different. First, he's evil. Look at him in there. And, he wants to conquer Earth. The Utroms come in peace, and they want to get the hell out of here. They both ride in these human suits, but, Krang from the cartoon looks like a bald fat dude, and the Utroms ride around in exoskeletons that kind of look like a Terminator. They're both responsible for creating the mutagen ooze. In the original Mirage comic books, the Utroms create it when they're trying to figure out how to get off of Earth. And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Krang developed the ooze so that he could, use it as a weapon. Or maybe it's I don't know. I can't remember exactly. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure they have different reasons for why they created it. Krang is a Krangazoid from Dimension X, and the Utroms are from outer space. This Utrom here is from the 2003 series, where they adapted the comic book pretty good, very well. They had some minor changes, and Krang was even mentioned in the 2003 cartoon as a character, I think off screen. Like they just named Krang in the episode as kind of like a gag. And finally, Krang here is an evil brain. The Utroms are not brains. They're like squishy, weak meat sacks from outer space. The 2003 take on the Utroms is actually pretty interesting. They kept the cartoon very consistent with the comic book, but they did add some extra interesting things, like the Guardians. And crazy of all, they made Shredder an evil Utrom in disguise. That's right, he's actually an Utrom named Shiril. The 2012 series mixed Krang with the Utroms and gave us a brand new evil race called the Krang. There's 2 A's in that spelling. Now, this Krang, they're all evil, and they're led by a Krang Prime, so they're all hive-minded, and they're here to try to take over the world. Or I think maybe something with Dimension X, I don't remember. The 2012 show was great. Check it out. Like I said, I don't remember all the key points to it, but I do know that it was good, so watch it. There's one final Krang to mention. In IDW Comics, Krang finally returns. But now, Krang is an Utrom general, and he tries to use his Technodrome to terraform the Earth into a new planet for his fellow Utroms. By any means necessary, he's trying to ensure the survival of his species. It would almost be heroic if it didn't mean the destruction of the human race. Krang showed up in TMNT Out of the Shadows too, but I didn't see that movie, so I don't really have much to say about it. And did you know that Professor Perry from Secret of the Ooze was going to be an Utrom? Too bad they didn't have the budget. My favorite non-cartoon related Krang appearance is this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 24 issue, where Krang comes back to Earth after being exiled, and he's trying to have his revenge with his pals Slash and Belly Bomb, and eventually Krang has Belly Bomb graft his head on top of Shredder's body. Crazy. It's finally time to talk about the 89 toy. Finally! I really like this design. I think it's very interesting because in the Mirage comic books, the Utroms never ride anything like this. And, for the first 2 seasons of the show, Krang only rides around in this little thing. And that's only the first couple episodes until he finally has his giant android body. And then once he has the android body, he mostly just rides around that. And even after they introduce the Bubble Rider to the show, he still mostly rides the android body. So, I've always been kind of wondering, where is this from? Peter Laird wasn't fond of Fred Wolf's take on the android body. He actually sent a bunch of designs, which were rejected by the cartoon company. Basically, he thought that he needed to look more menacing, I guess. I guess he thought he was a little goofy and stupid looking. But that's what makes him so intriguing. He's interestingly goofy. Something I've always been wondering is, did Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman design this walker for the Playmates line so that this toy could be close to something that they would like, because they were embarrassed by the android body? Or did Playmates ask them to design a smaller kind of vehicle for Krang to ride around in so that they can make Krang a decent size compared to the Ninja Turtles? If you would have made him too small, it wouldn't have been as imposing on your shelf, having a little tiny brain. They could have possibly built the body, but, for whatever reason, they didn't do that for, 6 years or so? So, if you have any answers to those questions, please let me know, because I would love to know. The Bubble Walker first appeared on the cartoon series in the episode The Four Mouse Turtles. And that episode appeared in October of 1989. Since it takes about 9 months or more to make an episode, they would have started working on that episode in early 89, so January? But, since these toys of Krang showed up earlier in the year of 1989, they had to have been in the process of creating these in, 88, I guess, or maybe even 87. So, I'm sure that this came first, And then, eventually, they adapted it for the cartoon. But in the episode on the cartoon, it's actually smaller and more compact than this one. It's interesting too because in cartoons they usually simplify designs so that they can animate it easier. But here it looks like they added a bunch of detail. They added a few more things here to try to make it, you know, I guess maybe more appealing, but you know, this was like giving themselves an extra headache by putting all this extra details and shapes and stuff in here. I like this toy a lot because it's a character and a vehicle all in one. And you can have Krang out of this thing. You can have him doing something else like in a Technodrome or making an attack or something like that. You could pretend that this thing is kind of on autopilot. If you were battling the turtles, you could have the turtles bust the arms off. It's a simple idea, but you know, it added a lot of extra depth to your storytelling and playing when you were a kid. If you look at Krang here, the blue veins all over his body give him a nice extra detail. He doesn't have that ever in the cartoon, so it makes this figure look nice and gross. Looks like I lied. I wouldn't say his face necessarily looks like evil. It just looks kind of goofy and angry. The paint back then was actually pretty decent. You know, there's some spots here where the blue is accidentally colored on the brain and not the veins. But you know, the eyes and the mouth are very clean. They look good. He has a huge hole on the bottom of him, so you can stick him in, you know, Krang's area in the Technodrome. I mean, he's different than the cartoon. He's not a faithful adaptation. Like, the bulges on top of his head are a little different. Let's see if I can find. Like, it just looks like, you know, regular brain wrinkles on top of him, where the original Krang design in the cartoon has a much more, oh man, buddy, like stylized row of bulges on top of his head. He's got 2 points of articulation, but that's all you need with this guy. You could just rotate his arms around. He's simple. He's a lot smaller than the turtles. But he works. He's great. Now you got the Bubble Walker. And the Bubble Walker is actually called, on the back of the card, a mobile life support system. And it's pretty funny. But you know, on the back here it says brain-powered tanks and boosters. I always thought these are more like vents, like exhaust vents or something like that. It's very colorful and it looks nice. You know, it's cool. The top of it opens very easily. Maybe a little too easy because, you know, you tip this thing and Krang will easily fall out of it. The turtle grasping mechanical arms fit onto the sides. They're not attached. You have to stick them onto these little pegs. And, you know, my biggest complaint with this thing is that these arms pop off all the time. And, furthermore, more so than the arms, this tube here comes out. The way that this tube is built, it doesn't snap into place. It's just like a little bit of pressure here. It's just like a cone. And you stick it in there, and it doesn't go in far enough to really, you know, click or anything. So it's just kind of stuck in there. And like this piece too, you only have this little tiny nub here, and you got to stick that on there. So, you know, if you go up too high, it'll fall off. And lots of times you just bump this thing and it falls off. It's not the best design for it. So you can only rotate your arms so far. I do like the detail on the arms. I like the coils, and it looks like, you know, you have little pieces of metal going inside of, you know, I don't know if it's like pistons and stuff like that. But, you know, it's cool. You got this little tiny dot here on the front. To me, this is like kind of like the on button. He comes with one weapon. It's the brain drain gun. It looks like a suction, like a plunger gun or something like that. But it's pretty cool. You know, I can't wait to see how Super 7 reimagines all this stuff. I wonder if they'll, like, you know, give it more detail, or if they'll kind of keep it to the same exact amount of detail. You just have a lot of ridges and stuff like that. You got little tubes on the side here. The actual Bubble Walker has 2 points of 4 points of articulation, if you count both sides. The legs can rotate this direction. They're pretty stiff, which is nice. And then the knees here, they can rotate like this. So you could potentially try to make it look like he's running, but it's not the easiest thing because of, you know, see that? Just because of balancing, he's going to fall over. But the detail on the feet are actually pretty cool. So here you can see the original toy design and the cartoon design. Now, like I said before, the Bubble Walker in the cartoon was actually a little thinner. When NECA made this, they kind of made it wider, but I think they did a better job. I think this looks a lot better than the cartoon. The cartoon one looks just kind of small and compact. And you can see how it, you know, it's different. Pretty much his whole body is into this life support thing. Like, that doesn't make any sense anyways if it was a life support thing, because he literally, like, sits in the stomach, an open stomach without a door in the cartoon, inside that giant android body. So you got the tubes on the side. You do have the tanks on the back, and it looks like there's some kind of like exhaust and stuff. And even the, see that? It tipped over, he fell right out. The bottom of this thing looks really cool. I like the little door and the little buttons or whatever that is. And you know, just the legs here. They copied a lot of the similar things, like the pistons here, but it just looks sleeker and more compact. And the feet, I think, are cooler too. I don't have many mint on card Ninja Turtle figures, but Krang just happens to be one of them. I love the artwork here. It's just like amazing, the artwork on these old cards. As I've said in other reviews, I wish they would just put out a book that was nothing but backing cards for Ninja Turtle toys, or just, you know, the box art. I don't know who exactly drew all of it. I don't know if it was a Mirage Studios person or a Playmates person, but, you know, I love it. Like, look at the extra, you know, the goo coming out of his mouth, and he's holding a baby turtle there. Vicious. He's draining Raph's brain here on the front. The back here has a lot of cool stuff. It tells you what everything is inside of the package. I love these pizza points. I used to try to collect these, but I never ever sent them in for anything. And look at this. 1989 was an amazing year for toys. All these toys were great. I don't know. NECA is kind of bringing it back to where I'm super excited about toys again. Super 7 as well. It's just Super 7 is slow. One of my favorite things is down here on the portrait of Krang card. I love how it says here, weight 17 pounds, soaking wet. That's such a weird, you know, little note there, but it really, like, makes you think about how gross he is. I love that. This is pretty cool. The only time I remember really seeing the Krang Bubble Walker outside of the toy line in the cartoon was in this game, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 Back from the Sewers on Game Boy. Other than that, you know, he mostly wore the android body. Even in the cartoon, he pretty much almost always wore the android body. So thanks for watching. And by the way, you've stumbled upon my Krang Marathon. This is only part 1. In the next episode, I'm going to review the 1991 original Krang android body. And this thing is gigantic. So tune in next time, and thanks for watching. See you later.